Welcome back, and allow me to welcome here in our studio one of Egypt's academician as well as strategic analyst and a member and advisor of the Command and Staff College of Egypt. Allow me to welcome General Osama Kabeer. General Osama, welcome to our studio, and happy to be with you, particularly that we will discuss issue that has a lot to do with the strategic analysis that you are always known to present in different media outlets. At the same time, there is a standoff that is going on, and we are tired of not only following the situation, but also paying a hefty price, particularly to our brothers in the Gulf region. Having said that, General Osama, there is an effort by Pakistan where the Minister of Interior is now visiting Tehran, trying to maybe transmit messages, carrying certain feedbacks from the Iranian side. Where do you read the situation, not only in the Strait of Hormuz, but also in the wider Middle East?
Well, good evening to you, and thank you very much for this invitation. And to answer your question, so the issue in here is that Pakistan comes now as the spearhead within the mediators. Actually, it started with Egypt, and as well as Qatar and Turkey and Pakistan. But finally, around something like 6 months ago, we have found that Pakistan comes at the first place. All right, that's fine. We all love Islamabad. So what happens now, if you exactly as you just said, they are trying to deal with the issue and sending two other or like main personnel, like they have the Minister of Interior Affairs and they have the Chief of Staff, I think Field Marshal Munir, also as like two main fundamental factors in this. If you can see that what happened within the last war that been waged by the United States of America on Iran on the 28th of February this year, and for 40 days. And after 40 days, it took something like 60 days to try to build up the good surrounding environment to get into the negotiations. And after that, when they went to the negotiations with the memorandum of 14 points or bullets, it like quickly vanished and broke by the U.S. due to what to be so called that the Iranians are holding the Hormuz Strait. So the Pakistanis now are trying to keep up their diplomatic fundamental pivotal role they are playing within the Middle East problem. They are trying to show to the U.S. because they are alliance to the U.S. as well as they have very good relations, diplomatic relations and political relations with Iran as well. And they understand that this sort of turbulence within the Middle East might affect them a little bit, maybe in the very near future, because also they have problems with the Indians. So keeping up the political pivotal role they are playing is one of their fundamentals, as I can see. So yes, you would find like too many shuttle diplomacy tours and visits in between Pakistan and Iran. And we do praise their role they are playing within the last period of time. And we wish them all best of luck, hopefully that we can come up with good resolutions with that. Yes, sir.
General Osama, war, you may start a war, but the ramification after this war is very important. The Middle East has suffered for many years war, ongoing confrontation, and the prevailing maybe of one theory of security based on confrontation. Do you see any success to the ideas that will bring the region together to create a kind of a scheme of cooperation, not again to invent the same nemesis that have brought us to the war issue, from war to a war? What is lacking? Is it a kind of regional diplomacy or international diplomacy? Because we all now know that there is interconnectivity between the Strait of Hormuz, between the Red Sea, between the Gulf of Aden, between the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, between the Suez Canal and the regions in general. So stability cannot happen without collective will.
That's a very deep and composed question, by the way. But okay, that's fine. See what happened now after the U.S. have waged the war on the Iranians on the 28th of February. So the Iranians have dealt with that war from a different concept, because we all know that they have targeted with a great aggression the GCC countries. And that was very bad. And of course, Egypt have condemned and denounced that like tens of times since the last 6 months. The problem in here is that the Iranians have tried to deliver a message to the GCC countries saying, the US hit Iran, so Iran is hitting you. Take Iran outside, so the US is hitting the GCC. That's the message the Iranians tried to launch and send to the GCC countries. This is very aggressive, by the way, and this is very frustrating, but that's the way they did it. Because I'm speaking about what's happening on the field. I'm not trying to say that they can change that, because we're trying to read their mind. The problem in here is that, as you can see, the Democrats yesterday, the head of Democrats within the Congress, he have declared that the United States have lost militarily, politically, this war they have waged on Iran. And the Iranians would perceive themselves now as the victorious counter. But the problem lies in the Middle East, because Iranians are not Arabs, US and Israel are not Arabs, but who's been hurt? The Arabs. So that's the problem here. And if something happened again, I would say that the Iranians will again conduct the aggression again in the GCC countries. So your question comes at a very, very sensitive point. Exactly. How can we assume or imagine that from this standpoint and on, is there a sort of peace-like probability that we can have a peaceful situation or status quo in the Middle East? Yes. But also it needs to be by the guarantor on this thing, which is the US administration. Because I would say now Donald Trump is trying to assuage the situation, trying to put out the fire. From his speeches, he is not too aggressive again, not too any longer. He's not too strong to speak about that. He's trying to solve the problem. So the problem here comes with Israel, because once you stop something, they start to go to the other way and trying to broke in a sort of agreements or sort of negotiations happened or took place within the last few months. So if you can see now, yes, diplomacy is working, shuttle diplomacy from Egypt specifically, as well as Pakistan. I would say Qatar is there, Turkey is not too far from that. And we are trying, because we read for the very near future and the mid-future as well as the far future. It depends on the US, Ambassador Hussein, it depends on the US, because they have waged the war and they can stop it and go peacefully, and they can impose their leverage, also impose the leverage on the Israelis, on this right-wing government orchestrated by Benjamin Netanyahu, of course. So hopefully, yes, hopefully diplomatic resolutions are bobbing up on the surface right now, and unless Pete Hicks and Donald Trump administration wouldn't restrike against the Iranians, because it seems it's going up to an end. Plus something like, quickly I would like to add on that, the new coalition been declared by the KSA and Turkey as well as Pakistan. It's a sort of strategic deterrence. To whom? Like too many questions asked. Is it against Israel? Is it against Iran? Maybe for both. Maybe it's something new just to make sure that we are all together and hopefully that no one will do something wrong within the future. So people now in the Middle East have felt the problem. They are trying to assuage the situation. And in the very near future, I would say yes. Inshallah. Inshallah. We'll assume that we have good repercussions out of that.
Very deep also analysis, General Osama, to a very also long question.
That was a composed question.
Let's go to a simpler one.
Right.
General Osama, the Arab national security, you touched clearly and you condemned, and I share with you this condemnation to the Iranian aggressive attacks on our brothers in the Gulf region. What is Arab national security work within this dynamics? Arab national security is important. Today we witness that depending on the US security measurements in the Gulf, have turned the Gulf into a battlefield. Right. And today, in follow-up to your lead, Iran has threatened if they were to be attacked again, they will definitely attack the US interests in the region, means the Gulf region, including even the passageway, oil tanks, oil pipelines, including the internet. So the threat to Arab national security and the Gulf security impose a very important question that I need your comment. Depending on the US as a superpower that has its own plans and strategy affect us, like they decided to go to war with
Right.
Israel against Iran.
Right.
And the battlefield has become our region. And this is exactly what you said. What is the new strategy and the new security measurements that we in Egypt, in the Gulf region, within the framework of the Arab League, as Dr. Nabil Fahmy has stated, that the Arab national security should be govern any future plans to the Middle East?
Right. This is a very, very important question at a very high scale as well. Thank you for that. So again, yes, look what's happening now. This coalition agreements are the defense agreements with the GCC countries after the war, and now we have clearly discovered that maybe the US, the GCC countries have finally figured that the United States of America maybe is not pretty much able or competent enough to defend them while hostilities or while aggressions, specifically by Iran, because they are in the range of their fire fields. So the thing in here is comes like, if we speak about Egypt, we have said something like 11 years ago about the Arab Unified Forces, for instance, because it belongs to us from the ocean to the Gulf. So if that happened, and I would say maybe it pops up again on the surface quickly because they will need that. Maybe the GCC countries now would understand that the Iranians wouldn't let the Americans to stay any longer there. One of them actually is to cease capture of Hormuz Strait, because when they said we're going to make it something like a toll station, you need to pay money for that. Don't forget that the Americans have to be called the Fifth Fleet in Manama, Bahrain. So do you imagine Fifth Fleet like going through like to conduct their surveillance to pay money? Americans would pay money for the Iranians. This is very dangerous. Second thing is that, as I understand from the CNN network, as well as the director CIA, John Ratcliffe, when he made his report a couple of months ago, and he said, yes, our bases within GCC have been more than 17% destructed by the Iranian missiles and fire. So the new strategy for the Arabs, and I think they are working on that now, all the stakeholders were talking like that, they would speak about, we need to carry on the whole responsibility within the Middle East, and from the heart of it, the Arabs region. And trust me, from a very strategic perception, and I'm not trying to exaggerate with that, Iran needs to be in the equation too. If you do that, you need to put them in the equation, because now we have understand that the Iranians would at least affect the GCC countries, which is a build to be called the security build for the whole Arab region. The new coalition, Turkey is not an Arabic country, Pakistan is not as well, but I think that would lead maybe for the Unified Arab Forces. It's an idea by the Egyptians, something like 11 years ago, and the new strategy comes from maybe the United States will pull out, or at least to diminish or mitigate their forces' existence within the Middle East. And out from that standpoint, you can move to the full Arabic control within the Middle East. Yes,
General Osama, we will return back to our very deep and strategic discussion, which I like very much what you have mentioned about the inclusiveness of all the parties in the region in one regional cooperative and security framework. We will come back to this point, but allow me now to introduce our report before we get a very important Zoom talk with Dr. Professor Nabil Mikhail, Professor of International Relations from USAID.
Yes, thank you.
Previous discussion with General Osama Kabeer, where we stopped at war can end and the Middle East will remain, and what is the Middle East should look like in the future, because the war might find its way and end with all its ramifications, but what kind of a Middle East which we are planning, Professor Dr. Osama? What is the Middle East that we are hoping for? Is it like Frank-Walter Steinmeier, the president of Germany, has wrote an article, and he was speaking about a Middle East which will follow the European process of Helsinki, a Middle East that is built to the benefit of all its members. And you stopped when you refer to the connectivity and inclusiveness, not the marginalization or the confrontation of one another.
Right. So, with all respect to the president of Germany, yes, that's fine, but it's supposed to be like perceived from other way, which is who are trying to ignite the problems, who is causing this security turbulence or the unsafe situation within the Middle East. It's outside powers, actually. So, within the last war, actually, there were no real threat by the Iranians on the United States of America. We understand that Netanyahu have dragged Trump, and that actually was declared within the Congress itself, to such a war that the United States of America never needed to get through. So the thing that, or what have been said by the president of Germany, that's fantastic, but after this whole situation would come to a saddle point, which means we need a state of a calm status quo in the Middle East first, then we can go for something like Helsinki, for instance, memorandum or understanding. Was it in 1975?
Indeed, it was
yes,
in 1975.
if I remember very well.
Yes, of
so
course.
that's fantastic, but in the meantime, we need to come up with a very good resolutions to dig in the roots of the main problems we have, with the catastrophic situation that we have reached to. There's no returning point of what happened in between Iran and the United States of America, because that would, from my perception, change the geopolitical situation within the Middle East, specifically if we didn't put Iran in the equation, because now maybe they are looking at the GCC countries, because I'm pretty much worried about those countries in the Dawla al-Khalij. The Iranians would have a very sharp look at them now if that war ended this way. And it seems it will be ending this way, except what's happening by the Israeli IDF and the right-wing government by Netanyahu in the Middle East. This is something different, because they are going in a contradictory way against the United States. As we understand that October month is approaching, and Benjamin Netanyahu needs to get to that month with a little bit turbulence within the Middle East, or otherwise he would lose his position, while vice versa is the right issue, because Donald Trump needs to get to November with a quiet and calm atmosphere within the Middle East, or otherwise he would lose his chairs for the Republicans. So they have a crack now in between the two governments, or the administration of the U.S. against the government. And that's why we have heard Netanyahu giving his speech to the interior component of Israel a couple of days, 3 days ago, when he said we can go against our friends for our sakes. This, for the very first time, you can hear something like that, which means there is a very deep-rooted problem in between the counterparts. So, yes, what have been said by the president of Germany, this is fantastic, this is our hope, this is what we're dreaming for. But I would say let's first fix some main problems, very essential and fundamental problems we have, and right after that we can go for something like Helsinki Memorandum.
Well, General Osama, normally before ends of wars, leaders of the region always meet to discuss the day after. And that happened in the Second World War, that happened in many conflicts. And now, do you see any opportunity or chance for an ongoing Arab discussion about the day after, about what best can we do to our region? And we shouldn't wait till the standoff in Hormuz ends and the war between Iran and the US ends, because it concerns us and it concerns Arab national security. Isn't it the right time to bring back a multilateral Arab discussion where we can, within the framework of the Arab League, with the new dynamism created by the election of a new Secretary General, Dr. Nabil Fahmy, to seek the way forward from our perspective?
Absolutely right. And specifically when you start speaking about this war the day after, this is very important. For instance, if you go back for the 1945 and the day after, if you remember what to be so-called the Yalta Agreement.
Yalta Agreement, yes.
Exactly, between Russia, Germany, United States and Britain. So the day after is very important, but look, in the Second World War, we have a winner. The problem in here is that there is no sort of a real ending for military or strategic military operations that took place for that more than 40 days. So you cannot see who's winning. Is it United States won and the Congress said they didn't win, while the Iranians have lost like too many of their personnel and too many of their military assets, and they would say we win. So the problem here that we have what to be so-called the dashboard. It's a level that you don't have a winner here, and that's why the day after would take a little bit time. Maybe it's too early to speak about the day after, but the most important thing that what has been said by, of course, Ambassador Nabil Fahmy now, he's head of the Arab, yes, the Arabic world or the Arab countries need to go quickly for some good pivotal resolutions to make sure that a catastrophic situation like this one wouldn't hit again in the Middle East. We need to look at the Americans and the bases. We need to look at Iran. We need to look at the GCC countries. We need to look at what's happening in Yemen, and what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in Libya, because Egypt is standing in solidarity but alone against three strategic depths within all the directions in the west or the south or the eastern west of eastern north of Sinai. This is very catastrophic, and we stand still and we stand hard in solidarity, but we need also help. We need to look what's happening in Libya, because Libya is also cracked. We need to look at what's Sudan, and this is the international community responsibility, by the way, not only the Jamaat Dawla Arabiya, is it the Arab League?
The Arab League, yes.
Arab.
The Arab League, yes, you
yes,
said
the Arab
right.
League.
Yeah.
name. Sorry for Mr. Nabil Fahmy, yes, I love this man.
Not at all.
So yes, the man is speaking like wisely, and he's hitting on target. But to make sure that we get finished first with the Hormuz catastrophic situation, with the Bab el-Manda problem, with the Houthis, and I would say Houthis are meeting like too many casualties within the last 4 or 5 days. However, they're still like hitting aggressively against the Saudi bases within the very south part of Saudi Arabia. But yes, Mr. Nabil Fahmy is right, and he's now new in the position. I think like a couple of months ago he started his chair, and we wish the luck for the Arab League, but let's first get done with what's happening in Gaza and Lebanon and with Iran. And you start this thing now quickly, or to make a new coalition by advising of Mr. Nabil Fahmy himself. It is very complicated and perplexing, but hopefully it will come to a saddle point by then.
Maybe in addition to the role expected from the new Secretary General of the Arab League to enhance the message of the Arab national security, Egypt can play always a pivotal role. And I recall the speech of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on the 23rd of July when he insisted that through peace and negotiation we can rebuild the Middle East, where we definitely can consult more together to define the roadmap for a future Middle East that is built to the benefit of all its members, similar to the geographical unity of Europe. We have to work towards a united Middle East that is a one geography that interdepend on each other, that secure its resources for the benefit of its people instead of going from a war to another. This is very important, and maybe that brings us again to the peace plan and the Peace Council plan to Gaza. The rejection of Prime Minister Netanyahu came Sunday in an official meeting of the Security Cabinet in Israel. And this rejection, some reports says that he got a permission from President Trump during his last visit to Israel, to Washington, and he is pleasing his right-wingers or right-wing government members, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and others.
Who else?
The whole mood is to the right.
Right.
And what is your reading and expectation to the forthcoming Israeli election, while many voices are talking about change and about bringing down the right-wingers and move again with a process that will lead to the stability, not war Mongols who have experienced only destruction and making wars like this government.
Right, it's not how do we expect also, because we are expecting that since this war on Gaza have started almost 3 years ago, The problem in here now is that the Benjamin Netanyahu has too many problems with the interior, because corruption problems, bribery problems, and maybe he will be trailed and put to prison. That's why he's moving forward like in a very negative way. It doesn't mean to him if he'd been like toppled off by, for instance, Atmar Ben Kfir or Ibn Smotrich. No, this is dangerous against him. Netanyahu now, I would assure you that he's against the Israeli component himself, because he's dragging them to the way with the cliff. They are on cliff now of mountains who may get dropped down, all of them, because Netanyahu now wouldn't pull out of southern of Lebanon. He said no Gaza, no Hamasistan, no Fathistan. He's turning on the table all like, and he's going against the United States of America within the last time. And that's why I'm a little bit optimistic about what's happening, because I do believe that the U.S. administration is the only one within the meantime capable and competent and strong enough to impose the leverage on this right-wing government orchestrated by Benjamin Netanyahu. And by the way, too many within this right-wing government, their eyes are on the chair. Smotrich, Ben Kfir, and also there is Avigdor Lieberman, and also there is Yair Golan and Yair Lapid. Like too many of them are waiting for Netanyahu just to fall down and start initiating their contestation. So again, Netanyahu is in the corner now. He's in a very good position. But Donald Trump will affect him, and they will do something in the very near future, because before these elections take place in the time and the place, we would have witnessed like great measurements would take place in the Middle East.
Well, General, in conformity with what you have said, there is reports today that there is ongoing pressures from the United States and President Trump himself on Netanyahu to move further into the peace plan. Mildenov also, as we all followed his meeting with Netanyahu, Egypt issued statements, and I think the whole world community is expecting a move towards implementation of the peace plan in Gaza. So what is the future to come? What do you expect after this election? A new government, or a continuation of the same right-wing government that have caused damage to the image of Israel, which is now maybe even not only a friend, as we always said, with the United States, losing all parts. However, maybe they have won in Colombia some support, and we condone today the Colombian decision, which is unnecessary and a price that shouldn't be paid to an aggressor, an occupier, and a country that no one should really look at but through condemnation.
Right. Well, very well. See, the answer now. First of all, we need to remind your audience that the BOP, or to be so-called the Board of Peace, it was a Trumpian idea. And now there is a sort of installation, and they have this executive council been led by Nikolai Miladinov, this Bulgarian politician, and the 20 points, however, it's with the Egyptian fragrance and essence. I understand that, because it's almost the 20 points we have put in 2024. They would say it's from our concept. Okay, the United States have put 20 points. So now Benjamin Netanyahu is going against that. He's going against Donald Trump personally, because he's supposed to be the chief or the president of the BOP, Donald Trump himself. And if you can see now, J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States of America now, his tongue, his political tongue now is a little bit aggressive against the right-wing government of Israel, because, and I understand this is in the diplomacy, maybe he's been directed by the hawks within the administration of the United States of America. And if you can see now, like Tomi is speaking now about that, the U.S. administration are trying to make linkages with like very, very pivotal opponent parties in Israel to make sure that maybe the most good idea now is throw out Benjamin Netanyahu out of that, to keep up their position, and to make sure that they have the good relation with Israel, but with different personality and different character in the diplomatic world, because Benjamin Netanyahu have reached to the point of no return, and he had exceeded the limitations, which means he is not a very good politician, by the way.
Yes, I do agree with you. Killing all those people.
You have lost.
Transferring also an image of a prime minister being a war criminal. is also
Right.
very hard to...
Very harshing.
Indeed. Professor, if we go, General Osama, to the situation in Lebanon, and there is reports that Israel is not going to give up before election. How credible is the situation and the negotiation itself? Maybe we heard Professor Nabil talking about the unwillingness of Israel to give up in Lebanon before election. Where are we in Lebanon now?
Right, quickly, I don't know how much time we still have, but I need to stress on something which is very important. There was an agreement on the 27th of November 2024 between the Lebanese government and Israel, which means that Hezbollah pull up all the way to northern of Litani, as well as all the Israelis, IDF personnel needs to pull down all the way to be so-called the blue line. So what happens is that Hezbollah pulled out to the north of Litani, and the Israelis, right, pulled down southern to the blue line, but they kept seized capturing 5 main strategic points, and they called them the strongholds. Why didn't you leave that? He said, no, it's for our security. But Hezbollah understand that they have these 5 strategic points. It's the launching points of their divisions, the tanker divisions. So what happened now? When they restrike again after that war against Iran, and the Israelis could seize captured 920 kilometers in square in the southern Lebanon, and start speaking now, leaving some of this point, pilot zone number 1, pilot zone number 2. This is nonsense, because due to 2024 agreement, they need to pull out of Lebanon. And that's why if somebody had fit the way and start thinking that the war in Iran was because that Israel to get into Lebanon and occupy this large scale of land, I would say I'm with you. I'm not against that, because they have their own also benefits and strategic objectives. So the thing is now, he have pilot zone number 1, which is Western Zoutar, if I remember, and what we call Veron. And the Lebanese army have sort of occupied, have entered that places and trying to secure them now. But he said they have the 7th round of negotiations in Rome, was something like 3 days ago, and there was a kind of IED. IED means the improvised explosive device, maybe a bomb, and blasted, and they got 4 military personnel from the IDF got killed. 2 out of them were officers. And that's why we will stop that now and not moving out of the southern Lebanon. And you can say that because of IED. No, it's not the IED. It's because October month is approaching, and you need to still have this unsafe situation and security turbulence within the Middle East, or otherwise you'll lose your share. So it will all end to one meet. Whatever happens from Benjamin Netanyahu, it's for his own sake, not even for the Israelis' sake. I'm not sure if you are done with the time, but I can see that
No,
my expectation is that also the U.S. will push on this right-wing government within the very near future, within this week, I would say, new changes, which is, to me, cheerful and optimistic about that.
General Osama, let me take you back to the day after. 2 missing parties, I think, to the equation that I want to shed lights with you. One is China and Asia, where today we all understand that they are suffering a great deal of the shortage of the supply chain, of the oil and energy market, but also Europe. Europe, 90% of their trade with China and the East and Asia is coming through the Suez Canal, talking all the time about an American rule, an American scenario for the future Middle East, without really those blocs carrying their responsibility in bringing meaningful solution to the current situation is also alarming. Yes, of course, Europe is busy with Ukraine.
With the Eastern Gate.
At the Eastern Gate, but we are busy with like 5 wars, name it, in Lebanon, in Gaza, in West Bank,
Right.
in Libya, recently in Syria, before in Iraq, and now with the Houthi attacking the Saudis. So all the interconnectivity between the passageways is under threat. So it shouldn't be the United States alone that should come with vision or solution, which more or less will go to its traditional ally, unless we understand now that there is a change in the American situation. However, my question is on China and Europe. Where are you while we are talking about a new map for the Middle East.
Right. So, very nice, because that would remind me when an American writer, it was a female, I can't remember her name, by the way, but I read that in the New Yorker's newspaper. And she said after what happened with Ukraine, and you remember that fight took place within the Oval Desk between Trump and Vladimir Zelensky, when he started telling the man, you are losing, you're not doing anything, you're losing that war, and leave your land to Putin and stuff like that. She said, okay, it's not MAGA, it's not Make America Great, it's Maya, which means Make America isolated ahead.
Again.
Exactly, he said the United States is alone now. So the problem in here is that she was describing that Netanyahu, Trump is going for what to be supposed hostile, which is Putin, and trying to shake hands, while the main friends, which is NATO and European countries, in specifically Ukraine as being the eastern gate for the whole continent, he said no more reinforcement, no more supporting, nothing, and we have paid enough for you, and you are losing, and you better leave that. So it seems maybe he couldn't get the idea that the eastern gate for Europe is pretty much important. But at the same time, the Europeans are very smart, because he have called them to get into that. He said, Hormuz Strait doesn't belong to me. I have oil for 100 years, maybe something like that. Come and get it, and open that strait. And he said, no, because we didn't start the war. We can't understand that what's happening, and we have our own war there. So the thing in here that we admire the Europeans, as with the United States of America, no problem. They are our friends and allies, but we're trying to analyze this, what's happening within behind the curtains. The Europeans now are suffering because of the oil prices, and the chain of supplies also is being like vanished or diminished for a ratio more than 15%, and they are trying to keep up the support and the enforcement for Ukraine, because they understand the hazardous situation might take place if Ukraine would lose, and they need the United States of America, and they need too many things, but I think we need too much more time for that, to speak about that. Hopefully,
I agree with you on that, General, because I've been told that we are 5 minutes ahead of our time.
No problem,
and
yes.
I thank you very much for your deep analysis, with the promise that we will meet again to further discuss the development in our region, and to seek your guidance as one of Egypt's strategic analysts.
My pleasure, and thank you for this invitation.
Pleasure is
thank
mine,
you, sir.
General
You said
Osama.
that's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is left to me is to thank you for following up this debate and discussion on our region and the international agenda in general, particularly the standoff in Hormuz and the situation in Gaza. Till we meet again, I wish to thank you. This is Ambassador Dr. Mohammed Higazi talking to you through Nile Oracle. Thank you.